I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon.
Oh my God, guys, look at that fucking hat.
Work a job every day till your dreams fade away. Like a card never change. Play the game.
Big old striker, guys. Look at that. Look at that. Big old girl from Pops.
You the man with the bridge shit, man. I can tell you that.
Look at that big one, guys.
That's a freaking hog, dude. Get up here.
Woo, baby. Look at that tank.
What's going on, guys? Bastin' Up Moffat here. Got my pops with me today. We are going to go over, and this is going to be a 3-part video. We are going to break down the 3 stages of spring fishing and what you need to do to get bit, and we're going to break it down by water degree and temperature. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And this, by all means, is not the only way you can break down any lake, and this is kind of more specific to a lot of the local lakes around me. But you can still do this same kind of thing anywhere to catch fish and to break down the fish. But by no means is this the only way or the absolute right way to do it. This is just our personal favorite way to do it and what we found works for us with the lures that we like to throw. So without further ado, let's just get into it. One of the first things we'll start picking up.
As soon as it's ice out and you know you want to get your boat out and get out on the water, first thing in the first part of the year, as soon as you want to go out there, you want to probably start with this, and that is
good old jerkbait. In this one, we got a Megabass Vision 110. This is a plus 110. This is a little bit deeper diving one.
right.
And we also got a Berkeley Stunner, perch color. Perch start moving up this time of year.
Perch spawn in the spring, early spring. They were one of the first fish to start spawning. So as the bass start coming in to those weed beds and stuff, they start feeding on those perch. If you know, just for general knowledge, not just shad.
Yep, not just shad. A lot of times, especially in a lot of our local lakes like Marburg and Pinchot and Redman, there's a lot of perch in there, and this is a lot of what they're feeding on early in the year when them perch are up spawning and getting ready to do their thing.
You can catch some of your biggest bass on those perch invitations in the beginning of the year.
Yep. Done that in quite a few tournaments around here. But then we got another Berkeley Stunner, just more of a shad color. And we got a Rick Clun RC stick with just plain white.
Very underrated color and very underrated jerkbait. They're cheap, but they work really good.
Yep.
Catch a lot of fish on them.
And for being a white one, this works a lot better in a lot of, well, it works in clear water like Marburg.
Works in every color
and
water.
Can work in stained water too. So
Yep.
you got a very versatile jerkbait right there.
Exactly.
And what minnow isn't some sort of a flashy white or doesn't have some sort of a flashy white in it? So you can mimic pretty much any kind of bait fish.
Real good on a cloudy day.
Then next, I'll let Dad talk about the blade baits a little bit, but we got some blade baits.
Yeah, next thing is we have some blade baits, and that's just another staple in the spring. You want to use that when it's cold water out. You know, kind of yo-yo it. You find a group of fish, you yo-yo it in the grass or through a group of fish. And those things really work to get a reaction strike out of those really lethargic fish. Same way with the jerkbait. You know, you're fishing for more lethargic fish when the water's a little colder. Up to that, I'd say once the water starts getting above 45 degrees, you can start transitioning into some more moving baits. But you know what? That's what we start out with, and we kind of just feel the fish out from there.
And this one right here, this is a Demiki Vault. And this one is a Mullex Trago Vibe.
And that Trago Vibe is really good because you can hit the bottom with that. The way those hooks are, if you see, they only have hooks facing backwards. They don't face forward. It's not a real treble. It's a double
Yeah,
hook.
It's a double hook.
So when that hits the bottom, it doesn't get snagged up.
Of quite as easy.
Right. So that's a pretty nice kind of deal they have there.
Then once the water starts getting into the high 40s to low 50s,
Yeah, mid 40s.
Mid 40s to low 50s usually, we'll pick up an Alabama rig. And just normal 5-wire rig, you can judge whether you want the blades or not.
Yeah.
Both can work, both catch fish. Me personally, I think I like the blades just a little bit more most of the time, but I haven't found that it matters too terribly much.
And along with that, we will use the spinnerbait also at about the same water temperatures.
Yep, and then with the
Very
Alabama
slow
rig,
rolling.
the big thing with the Alabama rig, to get it to run right too, the only thing you really want to do is on the bottom running ones, you'll probably want to have a little bit heavier of a weight, and then on your top running ones and your mid running one, you'll probably want a little bit lighter baits. That keeps the bait,
Kind of keel weights it so that
Yeah.
the heavier are at the bottom.
and then your Alabama
Keeps it
rig
from
won't
turning.
turn or spin as you're reeling it. It stays up in one position, and that's what makes you get more bites with it.
Yeah.
Because it looks like a school of fish, and this time of year, the bait fish are schooling up, so that's why the Alabama rig really shines this time of year, because there's no other really lure that mimics a school of bait fish like the Alabama rig.
Has a lot of drawing power with those 5 baits there, and you really want to slow roll that thing as slow as you possibly can and bump it onto the grass or the crubber.
if you can use it like a giant spinner bait
That's all it is.
and reel it pretty slow and get it to almost tick off the cover. Now, be a little bit careful because it does have jig heads and it snags up a little bit.
Yeah.
But for being a bait this big with this many hooks, it is actually pretty easy to get unsnagged because of all the
Unless you're in wood.
counterweights and counterbalance on it. Yeah, unless you're in wood.
Don't
Then
throw it around wood.
you can kind of get a little bit stuck up.
Right.
But next, let's get into some crankbaits. We got some deeper diving crankbaits. Got Rapala DT. This one's a 16.
Yeah.
And
That's a 20.
this is a 20. Just judge it. We like to go out and mess around with it a little bit, especially if we're seeing fish on the fish finder at certain depths. We'll try to match that depth and use that. And a lot of times with crankbaits, you want the crankbait to run a little bit deeper than what bottom you're fishing.
Right.
So if the bottom's 14 foot, 16 foot diver should get you there, and just enough to bounce off the bottom a little bit and get more of a reaction out of the fish.
Right. And you want to use these, those main lake points and the secondary points that you're fishing that are a little deeper in some of the lakes. That's where the deep diving crankbaits come in good play. And same way with the jerkbaits. I don't know if we said before, but fishing them around the grass lines and any kind of structure, that's where you want to fish that stuff. And like we said with the blade baits, you want to look for schooling fish or grass with those. And in the A-rig, you can fish all those places. Move on to the next one, whatever you want to go there.
Next, we got
lipless.
some lipless rattle traps, and these guys work best in the, what would you say?
I'd say from 45 degrees up. Same way with these. Like you
Yeah.
can start throwing these at 45 degrees. People think crankbaits meant for warmer water in the summer, but you can catch a lot of really good fish on this from 45 up to 55 degrees in the spring. So, and a lot of these are overlapping baits. This is not any set rule. They'll overlap a few degrees one way or the other. It depends on whether you're having a warming trend in your water. It might be, or cold days where your water is fairly warm and you got a cold day, you might have to go back to the jerkbait. But if you have warming trends, you can start moving up to with those more moving baits and fishing even shallower.
And by warming trend, he means where you have like a bunch of warm days in a row, and the fish are going to start moving up because it's getting warmer.
Sunny and warm out.
And if you got a bunch of days where it's been cold in a row, usually the fish are going to stay
back
out
out
and keep a little bit deeper.
Yeah, they're going to, you want to look for those more vertical banks and stuff where there's a transition close by to those drop-offs, and that's where the fish are going to hold this time of year.
Big 45-degree sloping banks, especially that's where you want to be running stuff like the crankbaits and reaction-style baits. Like he said, you're catching the bass as they're transitioning up through the water column.
And they're going to move up and down in that water column from day to day.
It fluctuates all the time because the weather
Throughout the
fluctuates
day.
all the time, and they're going to fluctuate up
Right.
and down. And I haven't seen it in many years, honestly, where we've had a consistent spring or
No, it's
spawn
never
cycle
Whether-
for the bass. Now, not necessarily saying go out and fish for the bass in the spawn, because you're not really supposed to, but
not for bedding bass in PA.
yeah, not for bedding bass in PA at least. But when they are getting up to that point, usually once they're getting into the spawn, they're kind of cutting off, not feeding as much anyway. But when you have, where was I going with this?
Anyway, just ignore him. He's stupid.
I don't know what you're saying.
I don't remember. I don't know where you were going with that. Transition it up and down in the water column or something.
I don't know, I lost it and it probably ain't coming back. So, let's get on with it, either way. But a lot of these baits, there's no real rule of thumb of how we do it.
Yeah.
We just go out and fish. And that might sound dumb to some of you guys, but fishing's all experimental. Now, yes, you have key trends of what you did last year or the year before, and you don't always want to pay attention to that. Sometimes you do a little bit.
You don't always
but
fish history.
you don't always fish the same way that you did last year because the year is different. Last year it might have been warmer around March this time of year. This year it might be colder, or this year it might be warmer and last year it might have been colder, vice versa.
As you were getting into earlier,
every year's a little bit different, and
crazy weather.
you really want to just go out there and fish. And a lot of things we do with each one of these is if we're not getting bit in a couple different spots within 30 minutes to an hour of using one bait, then we're switching. It's off and on to the next thing, because that's probably is not what they're on to.
I don't even spend 30 minutes at a place.
Yeah, we don't even probably spend that much sometimes.
If I spend 10 minutes at a place and I'm going to get a bite, and with all these lures, I'm going to move because I just have ADD, but that's me.
I like to give it a little more of a chance first, but
Yeah, he's more patient.
depends on the day. But that is, and then all of these different baits you can pretty much fish in the same areas. Like I said, you're going to want the steeper sloping banks. You can have cover that holds the sunlight and the heat, like rocks and wood and stuff like that. And if you have that on a bank side where it's a steeper sloping bank, like a 45-degree slope or something like that, then you're going to have a lot better luck at trying to get some fish, because they like that transition, that easy transition up and down, because they can go up and down real nice and slow and easy.
And they do that just to keep more comfortable, where in a comfortable zone of temperature zone for the that time of the day. As the afternoon comes in, the water's going to get warmer, and they may move up a little bit shallower. And as it cools down overnight, they're going to move back down in the deeper water again. But that's going to be all spring long, and they're going to keep doing that until the water stabilizes. So with our weather in PA, how it's been, it's spring one day and winter the next. That's the fish don't know what's going on either, so they're just constantly moving.
Yep, but that's pretty much going to conclude it for this stage of like your spring fishing and like your stages leading up to spawn. Next week we'll go over the next stage, and either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Stay tuned for the next one. And little tune in for this one. This week, I will be at B&B Lures Tackle Shop all weekend, Saturday and Sunday, for their annual open house. So stop in and see me. It's off of 232 Factory Street in Hanover, Pennsylvania. So stop in and see me. We'll talk fishing. I'll get you set up with some good baits that work around the local lakes. And maybe we can just bullcrap and talk fishing a little bit.
Who knows? Maybe I'll even come out.
Yeah, he might even be there, and you can learn something from him or two a little bit. But we're going to also, sorry about not really fishing much lately. Can't do a whole lot. And
it's all right. I'm going to get out next week, and he'll have to watch me fish.
We're going to get out this Friday, and I'm going to try to get some footage of him and maybe see if I can get on one myself. But with this, I have a feeling that I'm going to have a hard time.
But we might not catch anything. Who knows?
But we might not even catch anything. So, who knows? Stay tuned for that as well. And either way, make sure you keep hitting that like and subscribe button. And stay tuned for the next one. We'll see you guys.